It's chaos.
It's a different type of Sunday scary.
It's your newest obsession.
It's Dirty Driving, a Formula One podcast.
We're the Hornsby sisters. I'm Katie.
And I'm Megan.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to another episode of Dirty Driving.
We are here. I'm in a different studio than normal, officially a new studio. And we are here to discuss get ready, because I'm going to say it about 15 times this episode, the Great British Race-Off. On your marks, get set, race!
Love it. Yeah, Megan and I have been joking about that probably all week. I think you came up with it on Monday, and we've not stopped mentioning it or calling it the Great British Race-Off. So it's been a great week.
Well, technically, I came up with this idea, a really long time ago in the off season when I was legitimately watching the Great British Baking Show. So now, I mean, it's been mulling around in my mind. I've just had to wait 10 rounds to actually get to use this, what I thought was a genius idea. And I'm just kind of offended that more people haven't thought it was funny. And I'm also kind of offended that none of the teams nobody has parodied it already. I'm like, yeah. I should sell this idea to Mercedes or something.
That would definitely take care of us for a little bit, at least, maybe.
It would fund the pod. I gotta say, this is one of my better dumb thoughts.
I would agree, one of your better dumb thoughts, if that's what we want to call it. I think it was a creative thought. I would give you a creative thought on that, not dumb.
Definitely creative. I think that it's still one of those random thoughts that you have and you're like, what? Why? I don't think that people understand how amazing this name is, and I just need to be the one to educate them.
You do. You absolutely do. So before we talk about the actual Great British Race-Off, let's talk about the need-to-know news of the week. Megan, what is our first need-to-know news?
Shit, I feel like this was a very, very busy week. And really, I'm going to say it was a week and a half since we left Canada that it's been bonkers. That's the term I'm going to use, bonkers. A new one for the books. So let's start with really, this is kind of like a twofer conversation. We started the drama, and I hate to use the word drama because this transcends more than drama. But in controversial news, we started with Yuri Vips, who was found to have made a racist comment and a homophobic comment on a live stream Twitch. Red Bull Racing released a statement. Then Yuri Vips released a statement that I kind of was like, dude, you clearly didn't write this. And dude, this clearly is just the most ingenuine statement ever. To then roll this entire conversation into something that became much larger than just Yuri Vips, or Jury, I'm not sure the correct pronunciation, but we had the resurfacing of a Nelson Piquet interview back in November where he used a racial slur, the N-word. And really the entire F1, I take that back. The majority of the F1 community came out in support of Lewis Hamilton. We had Ricciardo, we had Ocon, we had Norris, we had the FIA, we had I think ESPN F1, we had Mercedes, obviously, we had McLaren, we had Aston Martin, a ton of others that I'm probably forgetting, but those are just the ones that are immediately, I think Nicholas Latifi retweeting it, whatever. We had a ton of the community coming out and supporting him. Then we had the amazing line on Twitter. We need to discuss this. Some dude, I don't remember the Twitter handle, said, imagine if Lewis Hamilton just logged on to Twitter and was like, who the fuck is Nelson Piquet? And then Lewis said, imagine back. I shouldn't be laughing. But that part of the whole thing was really entertaining and really funny. But really, the point about this whole Lewis Hamilton thing I want to talk about, this whole larger conversation about the use of a racial slur, is freaking Max Verstappen's half-ass support, like doing the utter bare minimum when he straight up was just like, yeah, what he said was wrong, but Nelson Piquet isn't a racist and I know him better than most people.
Yeah, I was a little disheartened by Max's response. I obviously understand that he's like in the family now, so rocking a hard place maybe, but at the end of the day,
it's not. I'm sorry,
yeah.
Rocking a hard place doesn't exist when a racial slur is used.
But exactly, so it's like I don't really have a lot of words for this just because I was disheartened by it. Like, you can't support, and I think he said something along the lines of like, not having had ever experienced like other racist remarks by him, but that's not an excuse that it was used.
No, I just was kind of like, look, Max, I get you are stuck because you're dating Nelson Piquet's daughter. But at the point that this is all happening after, like, look, personal thoughts of Max set aside, how the hell Red Bull Racing was like, yeah, I'm cool with you saying that, Max. The PR team was probably like, no.
Panicked. Absolutely panicked. And probably didn't prep him before he said whatever he said.
I don't know. How much can you control a world champion with a father like Joss? Which we're going to talk about Joss later. There's a reason I want to wait until later, but we're going to have to talk about him later. But I will say, though, I do really like that what Sebastian Vettel said in the press conferences. He said, kindness matters, people matter. And first off, that is the most Sebastian Vettel statement. But also, I think we should start printing that on T-shirts. Like, that is utterly just, at the end of the day, that is the most important statement that was made in the press conferences. Like, it matters how you treat other people. The words you say and how they affect people matter, and all people matter. And I just clearly wish that some people in the paddock got that.
Yeah, and I was also a little disheartened by the word that came out that he was not going to be allowed back in the future paddocks. And I'm like, that's all you're going to do?
I mean, I think that was a step, but I also think that, I don't know. I don't really know what else the FAA can do to punish him, truthfully. Like, it's not really against the law to be a racist. It should be, but it's not. I don't know what else the FAA could do to enforce it. I do think that at least they did that. I do think it would be freaking uncomfortable if the FIA had been like, Nelson Piquet and his family, which is what the rumor was going to be, like, Kelly can't show back up. Who's going to kiss Max's closed helmet?
Megan. Don't bring that up again.
I'm sorry. Their PDA is too much for me. She kissed his helmet. Like, while he was in it.
That was the helmet. That was also the official first time that she was like at the race celebrating alongside him, and I'm just like, not the helmet kiss. It still haunts me to this day. It's been over a year.
It haunts my nightmares.
Yeah.
That's the stuff of pure nightmares. So again, Katie and I fully support Lewis Hamilton, and we fully condemn Nelson Piquet. The dude's kind of shit outside of it. We're not going to go down the rabbit hole of what Nelson Piquet's... Dude probably shouldn't be allowed. I literally saw something that said that he had his driver's license, his like legitimate driver's license taken away, and he, as an F1 driver, had to go to the DMV and like...
Wow, I had no idea.
Imagine you're like a 3-time world
champion and
you have to go to the DMV driving school. He wasn't even drunk, Katie. I think he was just like aggressively drunk. I'm sorry. This is probably incoherent to anybody listening, but he had to go to the DMV. Nelson Piquet, 3-time world champion, had to go to the DMV and go to driving school.
That should be the punishment for being a racist, is you have to spend years at the DMV.
You never get to leave.
Years
at the DMV.
Years.
He has to go back to driving school as a 4-time world champion. I'm sorry, that's hilarious. If you don't
Yeah,
think that's
that's
funny,
pretty good.
you're not funny. No. Okay, in other news, we'll get back to my other news. Sorry, I had to go down a rabbit hole there. I heard that and I was like, what? But needless to say, we had a host of upgrades this weekend, but really the ones that are to mention were our Ferrari and Mercedes upgrades, which clearly show that Mercedes has taken a step in the right direction. We saw Lewis Hamilton battling it out. And let me tell you, I think the fans in Silverstone, that is the race to be at. I thought Canada was incredible, but if I could have been at this year's Silverstone, I don't know if I would have ever left. I think I'd still be at the track, like just laying there, absorbing. But one of the teams, Williams, had an interesting upgrade, and I felt like this is important to mention. So they only had one set of upgrades to bring, and they put it onto Alex Albon's car. So Nicholas Latifi was in the old spec, and Alex Albon was in the new spec, which is, we learn in press conferences that Latifi was actually, like, Latifi was asked about it. Latifi explained that the reason it was Albon is because of, like, the championship points. Like, whoever has the most points gets the upgrade. Totally great, totally fair. Unfortunately, what happens in qualifying was interesting. We have Latifi getting into Q3, and Katie and I is like the happy moms for him.
Yeah, I was cheering him on, and like me cheering on Nicholas Latifi, I was shook at the words coming out of my mouth when I was watching and saying them to the TV. But I was like, "Go, Nicholas, go!" Like, I was shook, and Megan and I texted immediately, and we were like, are we seeing what we're seeing? Like, is this really happening?
I mentioned
he finally moved up in the standings above Nico Hülkenberg this week for the first time.
Thank goodness for that. But also, let's talk about how I sent someone a text, and I'm not going to say who. I said, Nicholas Latifi in Q3, and they said, I'm not watching. Is this an alternative universe? ... And then they responded, wait, no, this is just the upside down, because we've all been watching Stranger Things.
I love that. No, this is just the upside down.
I thought it was so. I was like, you're kind of right. You're kind of right. Next up, we have Pierre Gasly stays with AlphaTauri through next year. Are we surprised?
Disappointed would be the better word for my description of my emotions about this. I just feel like we can get so much more out of him, and like this year hasn't been super great thus far, but we know Pierre, like we know what he's capable of, and I think he just deserves something more than an AlphaTauri.
I do too. I just don't know where else I'd want him to be. I think maybe it's the best plan to just stick it out another year, get another year of these 2022 cars, and then maybe he fills a spot at the end of next year. But I do think it was the right move for Red Bull Racing to keep him in their tentacles. Then the other important thing we had happen ahead of this weekend was we have new regulations were approved by the World Motorsports Council. Lots of changes were brought up. The big ones that we need to discuss are the changes to the power unit. So the regulations have been changed to allow for components to be changed for newer specifications under Parc Fermé conditions. Parc Fermé is that kind of, long story short, it's basically a chunk of time where the cars enter a legitimate Parc Fermé, like a place, but also enter like a time lock where no work can be, or not no work, no significant changes can be made. And this is a massive move because previously, had the specification of a component been changed in Parc Fermé, it would have triggered an automatic pit lane start. So this is a big change. I think this is probably something to do with the fact that we're running through power units and components a lot quicker this year. I don't know if it's going to stick around for many years to come, but basically the FIA are going to allow for patch repairs following damage or failure, providing they're made from the same material and composite as they previously were, and if they're local and minimal. Again, another vague statement from the FIA, local and minimal. And then the second big announcement, and this is going to kind of change just the structure of the weekend, something that this is Max Verstappen was, I think, the most outspoken about, is that Media Day has officially been moved back to Thursdays instead of Friday mornings.
Yeah, he had been very outspoken about Thursdays being or Fridays being too much for the drivers, and how, they're already at the track already on Thursday. I'm fine with it. It doesn't affect me all that much. I think it makes more sense, honestly. I understood the idea of moving them to Friday to be more sustainable and give the drivers less responsibilities, but I feel like it just glommed the schedule up a little bit more, and so it makes sense. I'm all right with it.
Honestly, I mean, I'm not a driver. Sorry, I'm going to fix my mic while I do this. I'm not a driver, so it doesn't really, affect my sleep schedule. But as a viewer, I can tell you I have watched one press conference this year. I've just read the transcript because by the time in America I'm available to watch it, already FP1's happened, or I wake up and I'm watching FP1. I'm not going to start with press conferences and then wait. So for me, I can see now, or I guess for many, I would hope many Americans that want to watch press conferences, this actually allows them to see it. So I guess as a viewer, I'm a little bit more invested because I'll actually watch it, not live on F1 TV. But I mean, last year I was watching them every week because I like the press conferences.
Yeah, I enjoy them. I feel like it's a good warm up to the weekend. It's good insight on how everyone's feeling, how they're feeling about the upcoming race. They'll talk about upgrades to the car. They'll talk about changes. It's not necessarily by any means the most important part of the weekend, but it's entertaining and instructive and educational to a degree.
If anything, it's just a little bit of extra content. Provide some context is what I kind of view it as.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the Great British Race Off. Silverstone is dubbed the home of British motor racing, and Hamilton has actually compared a flat-out lap at Silverstone to flying a fighter jet. And with Top Gun out and all of the raving about it, I haven't seen it yet. I'm going this week, but I just watched the first one today, or the original one today, and I was thinking about Silverstone and thinking about Top Gun, and I get it. Fighter jets, G-forces, all of the above. Some of the
G-forces, all of the above.
All of the above.
I'm also appalled that I didn't know that you haven't seen the new Top Gun.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's amazing. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. And everyone who hasn't seen it should watch it, just because Tom Cruise was there this weekend and had the cutest, most amazing moment with Papa Perez and what I'm calling Father Hamilton, because we have to give him respect. His son's a knight.
Yeah, I like Father Hamilton. I was calling him Papa Hamilton and Papa Perez, but I like Father Hamilton. And since you brought up Tom Cruise, I was going to save this for later, but we got more Tom Cruise content than I think we got McLaren content.
Oh, hands down. We got more Tom Cruise content than we got Williams. I would say Williams, McLaren, Aston Martin. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of aggressive how much Tom Cruise content we got this weekend.
By the end of it, I was like, okay, I know he's there. I did like seeing James Marsden, totally taking us off track. Haven't seen him in years.
Also, Keanu Reeves. And I don't know if you watch Billions or there was that show, Homeland. The guy in Homeland and Bobby Axelrod from Billions was there on the podium. So I saw him lean over to Checo and say, great job, bud, or something like that. I don't know. I added the bud. That was weird. I never say that. But I was like, it's Bobby Axelrod.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, Silverstone gave us a great race. We're going to get into that, but a couple more things on it. It's got some of the most challenging corners on the circuit, and that's why it is hailed as one of the greatest races within the season. Of course, we had the Verstappen accident last year in the Copse corner. We've got Maggots and Beckett's and Abbey as well. So just historical corners that have delivered great battles. Silverstone. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Megan.
Oh, I will say, for anybody who watched and is like, why do they suddenly start, using the names of the corners here at Silverstone as opposed to being like, oh, that's turn 4, that's turn 5, that's turn 9? It's because the names at Silverstone have been established for so long that they called them by their actual corner names. And I didn't actually know this, but the teams use the official corner names as well. They had mentioned it on the broadcast. I thought that was really interesting. So definitely something, if you're going to plan to stick around and be an F1 fan, you got to know the Silverstone corners.
Yes. Yeah. And it just ties into the history of the circuit. Post World War II, Britain did not have a track. And so they took this old training airbase. Correct,
It was an
Megan?
RAF,
You've got.
it's a Silverstone RAF.
Thank
base.
you.
It was a base.
It was a base. And they took the old runways, and some of the runways are part of the track, and like the concrete that is poured for the track, and the extra sites that the track hosts. So it's wholly F1 ground. It's been there since the beginning, and it actually hosted the first official Grand Prix, the inaugural Formula One World Championship in May 1950. That was, of course, we mention this every time we bring it up, but it was won by Giuseppe Farini of Alfa Romeo. So Megan and I also noted when Bottas went fastest in FP1 when we were like, another Alfa Romeo? What's happening?
I think I jinxed them. I called Katie after FP1 and I was like, Katie, we kind of fake predicted this last week. Also, I'm so sorry. There's tons of fireworks going on. We are recording this on July 4th, so you can probably hear those. Enjoy. They're fireworks for Carlos Sainz in my brain. But that was just like a total thought inside of like another thought. I'm so sorry to anyone listening.
And the cat is the cat that I'm borrowing from Megan is meowing too. So enjoy the background noises of our natural habitats this week. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Megan.
no, I totally jinxed them after FP1. I was like, Katie, could we have predicted something? And then Sunday happened, and I immediately was like, I should just not call Katie and get excited between FP1 and the end of the race.
Yeah, we really don't need to talk to each other in between because it always just ends up with
we jinx
disappointment.
Everybody.
Yeah, we could be the new what's his
Don't
name?
say it.
Nico. We could be the new Nico.
I don't want to be Nico.
Okay, yeah, we'll take that back. Okay, so home races this weekend. We had a ton. Mercedes, McLaren, Williams, Aston Martin. Red Bull is like a weird technicality because they've got the Red Bull Ring in Austria, but which we're going to be next weekend. But the factory is like 20 minutes down the road in Milton Keynes. So, yeah, technically a home race. And then Harsh partially as well because they have a home base there. And then we had, obviously, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and Lando Norris. So lots of home races. We saw some successes, some failures, which, again, we will dive into.
I mean, was really the highlight of the weekend Lewis Hamilton bringing Roscoe to the track? I mean, for some people, that was the highlight.
That could have been my highlight, honestly. I missed Roscoe. I'm just so
glad he's doing well. He's chilling. He had a great ride. I mean, Roscoe rides around in cars that I will never even be able to like touch.
When I come back and I reincarnate, I want to be a Formula One driver's dog. I'd be all right with that.
I want to be Lewis Hamilton's dog. I'd go vegan to be Lewis Hamilton's dog.
Okay, Megan. So in 2020, we held two races back-to-back at Silverstone. One was called the 70th Anniversary Grand Prix, and one was the traditional British Grand Prix. Let's think about if they did that again this year, minus the crash. Do you think we would have seen more battles, less battles? How do you think it would have played out?
This is interesting because I was kind of actually thinking if we could get another like British Grand Prix that was this exciting or really another race this season that this was exciting, that was as exciting as this was. So here's kind of my thoughts on that initially. I think the first one would be Verstappen wouldn't have the damage that he had taken on his floor. Those are really close. I feel like they're concurring that Max would not have had the damage. So there's that. He would have played a much bigger role in the race. What I will say is that I could bet money that we would have another first lap incident. I don't know if it would be because, let's say the race was happening, second sub out Austria for another Silverstone. I could see drivers being a little cautious, and then I could see some drivers being a little bit more aggressive than they were this time because they would have the foresight to know that people are going to be cautious going into turn one after what had happened this weekend. We are going to talk about the Zhao crash in more, but I'll stop there. I would also like to hope, but I kind of know, and I bet Katie's going to concur with this, that if they did it again, Leclerc would have a better strategy, but it's Ferrari, so would they? Do they even have a strategy?
Do they even show up for races some weekends?
I mean, technically they did this weekend, but
yes.
I mean, really, the Sainz victory, I'm going to straight up argue, and I fully believe this. Sainz defying Ferrari was the strategy move that ensured that they won. If Sainz had not defied him, I believe wholeheartedly it would have been Hamilton or Perez who had won. Hands down.
I can concur with that statement. And I don't have
He would have been pissed.
I wasn't planning on bringing this up that much because I don't know why. There was just so much other things to cover, but we could talk about it a little right here. Charles and Mattia after the race, little moment. I'll pull it up. I believe I screenshotted it.
Do you think he was scolding him, or do you think he was telling him to not ruin Carlos Sainz's day? I think he was like, do not ruin this for Carlos.
Yeah, I think it was more what they said to Max in Monaco of 2018, where Christian looked at Max and said, go out there and enjoy the day for Daniel. Go out there and enjoy the day for Carlos. And Charles, you and I can talk about strategy and what went down and what happened during the race after the celebrations take place.
Do you think, what do you think about if there was sorry to go back to this, but I kind of realized you never answered it. What do you think would have happened? Yes, that's the moment.
That's the photo. If you're watching, which you can do on our YouTube channel, you can see I've got another show and tell later as well. So
she's bringing the show and tells. No, I totally think that he was probably being just, it wasn't your day. It'll be okay. We took a chunk out of Verstappen's lead. Let's move on. Let's power through. But Katie, to go back to the question that you had asked me, what do you think? What would have happened if we had another one here?
I think if we would be staying in Silverstone and having a race next weekend following the exact race that we just had, I don't think we would have any crashing issues because you're exactly right. I think they would go into it being a little bit more careful, knowing what happened just this past weekend. I think if we did not know how the first race went and we just had two races in Silverstone, I just feel like with the accident or incident that happened last year and where we are at in the season thus far, something was bound to happen. Tensions haven't necessarily been super tight, but I feel things are shifting in the season, and I just had this feeling that something was going to happen. And so whether or not it did happen or didn't in the first race or the second race, if we had the second race, I think it was just time for a little shakeup to the season.
No, I agree. I think this race saw the incident that was coming. I don't know if you can say there was a premonition. I don't think that's really true. But I definitely feel like with everything that had happened last year, the fact that is a corner that gets you into turn one, we haven't really, it gets you. I think that an incident was bound to happen, but outside of the incident, I think this was a weird shaking up of things. I mean, the podium was Sainz, Perez, and then Hamilton. Perez, yes, he won Monaco, but he's not 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship, it's Max and Charles. And so I think it was nice to see somebody else win. I definitely think it was good to not see Verstappen win. I mean, it's unfortunate that he had the weekend that he did, but like, look, I mean, I don't really care if Max wins this year, whatever. But I actually kind of don't care who's winning the championship. I just don't want the championship to be decided too early.
And I don't want whoever wins the championship to be on the podium every weekend.
No, let's make it interesting. This is the whole point of the regulations. This is what it's supposed to offer us. Some exciting battles, which we're going to talk about, but also different people on the podium. And guess what? It was about time that Mercedes kind of... I mean, now this is back-to-back third places for Lewis. Something's happening there. Something's.
In the cool-down room, Sainz said to Lewis, "So are you guys back then?"
I thought that was really cute.
And I was like, I would have asked the same thing.
I mean, shout out to Carlos Sainz for saying what he wanted to say. I was like, damn, dude, he was going in there hot with that statement.
He just won. He can say whatever he wants.
Oh, obviously. Okay, we have talked a lot about how Carlos Sainz won, but let's talk about how the weekend unfolded well before that happened. We're going to start on Friday. And let me tell you, I'm not going to lie. Friday and Saturday were very interesting because of the wet. No, it went mixed, dry, wet.
Wet, yeah.
But
it was a little wet.
There was a little wet somewhere in there. Let's start with FP1. It was, like I said, it was mixed conditions, which made it really hard to draw any conclusions from the results. Valtteri Bottas went fastest on the intermediates. And the reason it was so hard to draw any conclusions is, one, only 10 drivers set a time, but also Lewis Hamilton did the most laps in the session, and that was 10 laps. Not a whole lot of... let's say people getting out there, getting after it at all. It was very slow lull into Silverstone this weekend. We had two kind of strange things. We'll start with one. Lewis Hamilton removed some of his jewelry, which I thought was quite interesting. He had no nose ring in on Friday. It's like, ooh.
No earrings.
Yeah, he really, I guess, has determined that there are other battles to fight, and the jewelry one is not the one to fight. But the other kind of strange thing that suddenly occurred that I did not know was happening until it was happening was this new weird pedal camera that Lando Norris was trialing to maybe have in all of the cars eventually. This is arguably, I would say, much better than the drone, but still quite weird. I don't know if I have to get used to it.
If we see the drone again, I quit.
That was not good.
But
that was not
the drone is not good. Pedal cam, it flipped on, and at first I was like, what are we even looking at? Like, I was kind of confused. I was like, and then my brain started to process the image I was receiving, and I was like, oh, those are his feet, and that's the pedals. And then I looked up in the corner, and it was like pedal cam or whatever it said, and I just am shook that they can just stick a tiny camera in there wherever they want. That's my first thought. And the second thing that I did make note of is apparently it's been over 20 years since we last had a pedal cam. Someone mentioned that. One of the commentators mentioned that. I did not fact check it, so don't hold me to it. But I'm like, oh, this was a thing one time before now? Like, that's interesting.
I think I would like it more if it was a side-by-side of the pedals and them on track, so you could actually see the reactions and when it was happening and where they were. Because so here you have this camera, it's Lando Norris's feet, and you're like, this is interesting, but I don't actually know where he is.
Yeah, and I'd love to see it with side-by-side where we can see them with the gears on the wheel.
Oh, yeah, that'd be really cool, actually. To kind of get a holistic view of what is happening in the car. I just thought it was weird to just have it like, and here's his feet.
Yeah, no announcement, came out of nowhere.
Weird. Not surprised that the FIA TVI reaction was just like, and suddenly pedal camera. So that leads us to FP2, which was a dry session. Carlos Sainz went fastest. Hamilton was second fastest, and Lando Norris was third fastest in that session. There was only like 1/10 separating Hamilton and Sainz. And this is where I told myself, do not get excited about Mercedes' performance and do not get excited about Sainz, because this session was dominated by the fact that Red Bull was struggling. So Verstappen and Perez were both very unhappy with the car. Verstappen complained the car was touching the ground. So there was definitely some setup, some issues there. So I told myself, it's like, do not get excited, do not get excited, do not get excited, do not get excited. I still internally was a little excited, I didn't talk about it. Sebastian Vettel experienced some issues. He had to pit due to an issue with his floor. But ultimately, the session was kind of like the little bit of a reminder that, like, okay, look, Mercedes clearly looks like they've taken a step forward. They weren't bouncing on the straights, but it looked like they were bouncing in some of the corners. Then we saw McLaren, which was looking stronger than it had been. And this is after the week we had where Andre Seidel had mentioned that they were probably going to have to halt development sooner rather than later for fear of the cost cap. But also, again, we have Alpine looking strong. The question, again, was still going to always be with Alpine is when are they going to actually be able to translate that pace into success on a Sunday where the points matter? This one was better than most.
And they were one of the teams that I had noticed, in addition to Haas, that were struggling with porpoising a little bit more than they have been all season. So also just starting to think, like, is that because of the track at Silverstone? Is that because of something else going on? And we'll be making note if they have issues with that in the next couple of races.
I feel like it can't be the track. Like, the track is literally smoother than we've seen in the last 3 years. So it has to be like some setup issue. But to me, then it begs the question, like, I thought, some of these teams have gotten under control with it. Clearly not. We saw Ferrari experiencing it in that session as well. So then we have Saturday morning, which was a dry session, and this was the sobering reminder of why I shouldn't get excited about results in FP2 when Verstappen's having issues with his car, because Max Verstappen went fastest, followed by Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc, and I immediately was like, well, damn it, this is going to be like a mall this year. But ultimately, Verstappen was looking strong after a rough Friday. Again, Mercedes was still looking good. But here we go. Sainz was complaining about the high-speed corners. So, it's just like a roller coaster in practice. And I really just can't commit to an emotion about the weekend during practice. Then we had qualifying. When I tell you that this might be one of my favorite qualifying sessions to watch, it is. And it's not for what anyone else. It's probably a weird reason why. Let's start with Q1. It was raining cats and dogs, literally cats and dogs. And the reason I enjoyed watching this one is because this qualifying session it was raining cats and dogs, we were not there. So I was watching all of those fans get wet, and I was nice and cool and warm and like in my dirty driving hoodie, like, thank God I'm not in a damn poncho. But trust me, I would have taken a poncho and Silverstone over moving this weekend. So there's shades of my thoughts on this. So the first session, they were all out on inters. Again, Vettel and Stroll and Aston Martin got it wrong in the wets for a second race in a row. And literally Sebastian Vettel said it right. I'm not going to add any more commentary. He said, not again, not again. Correct, Sebastian. Not again. When is Aston Martin going to get their shit together? Because it's clear that they do have some pace in their cars on a Sunday. We saw Sebastian Vettel make it up into the points. But nevertheless, qualifying is their weak point. So hopefully they'll be able to figure it out. Here I was worried about Haas, but clearly I didn't need to be. It's better if they qualify in the back and make their way forward. Out in Q1 was Alex Albon. Weird, because don't forget, he had the upgrades that Nicholas Latifi didn't have. Magnussen, Vettel, Schumacher, and Stroll. And yes, I'd like to remind everyone here, note I didn't mention that Nicholas Latifi was out in Q1. We had Q2. Nicholas Latifi participated in this. He outqualified his teammate. Everyone again was still on inters, and let me tell you, the elimination zone was stressing me out. I was like, Daniel, Esteban, what the hell are you doing? Ultimately, it would be Ricardo and Ocon that wouldn't make it to Q3, but Nicholas Latifi would. And ultimately, it would be Pierre Gasly, Valtteri Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, and Esteban Ocon out. I'd like to point out that Zhao did make it to Q3, out-qualifying Mr. Saturday himself, Valtteri Bottas, and still Nicholas Latifi is just, I mean, I can't say it enough. I'm so confused.
I think it was the most confusing point of the weekend.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Then we get to Q3, and I gotta give Max Verstappen some points here. How he managed to keep his Red Bull on the track after that 360. I mean, that would have, it only ruined his lap, but it could have ruined the session. It could have ruined the weekend. I mean, the weekend was pretty bad, but I was like, damn, that's impressive.
It was a nice move. It was a very nice move, and I applaud him for it.
Totally applaud him for it. Charles Leclerc would spin right at the end, preventing him to set a fast lap and would ultimately leave him qualifying third. Then again, I was so stressed out about the fact that Max was potentially going to take his pole position back from Carlos Sainz. It didn't happen, and there we have it. Pole position went to Carlos Sainz, his maiden pole position, his first ever on his 150th Grand Prix weekend. And the best part was when they told him on the radio, he was like, no way, I didn't expect that one. I felt terrible out there. Okay, dude. Remember all those times you felt great and thought you had pole position? Nah. So, Katie, here is my question for you. I've been thinking about this, waiting to drop this on you. Did you think that there was even a chance that Carlos Sainz was going to win the race after that maiden pole position? We have not talked about this, and I am just like, did you think on Saturday night, were you like, I should bet on Carlos Sainz? I know we didn't, but were you like, should I put money on him? Or were you like, hell no, it's going to fall apart again?
I think I was honestly in a dream state because I woke up on Sunday and was getting ready to like sit down, got my cup of coffee, got my 2 cups of coffee actually, and like was flipping through Instagram, getting ready to, watch the race. And I was like, I'm in disbelief. I thought it was a dream. And I was like, no, it's not a dream. It's happening. The sun is shining. The tank is clean.
The tank is clean.
The tank is clean.
Carlos Sainz is on pole.
Carlos Sainz is on pole. And I think if I would have absorbed the fact that he was on pole faster, I would have put money on him winning the race because A, why not? And B, I did have faith that this might be the win, and it was. I didn't say that to you because I didn't want to jinx it. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
Yeah, it does, but I can flat out tell you I did not think he was going to win. I was like, look, it's going to be dry on Sunday. Max is going to get him on the start. Max is just going to start doing what Max Verstappen does, driving into the sunset alone, like a lone ranger. And here you have Carlos Sainz just like, oh, damn, well, that's over. My bad.
I did it. Yeah.
Then there'd be an incident and Max Verstappen would beat him off the line again. Like literally in my head, that was how I had played the whole thing out. I thought it was going to be a Red Bull weekend or Red Bull Sunday.
Well, and I'm about to get into the race and talk about all of the things that happened in turn 1 and lap 1. But on the initial start, if you didn't watch, there were 2 starts. On the initial start, when Max got ahead, that's when I lost all my faith. And I was like, oh, he's not winning. But then we were given the glorious joy of a restart, unfortunately, because of an incident that happened. So happy to jump in and take it away.
Let's do it. Let's hear all about it.
Okay.
Let's hear it all.
Let's hear it all. We have a lot to talk about because
that's an understatement.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about because lap 1 took up a full page of notes in my handy dandy notebook. So it was lights out.
Blue's Clues.
Yeah, Blue's Clues. it was lights out and away we went for one corner before the session was red flagged. Verstappen, like I said, got a jump start and sped in front of Sainz to take the lead. That's when I was like, this is not going to be his day. However, the grid in its entirety didn't make it past the first corner thanks to a pretty big racing incident, and one of the scarier racing incidents that I have watched live as a fan. We actually didn't even get to see what happened until we knew that Guan Yu Zhao was out of the car and okay, and then they started playing the replays. But we knew it had involved Albon, Zhao, Russell, Tsunoda, Ocon, and like I said, didn't fully understand what happened. But once we were able to see the replays, we saw that Zhao flipped over. He went straight down the grid upside down and then hit the barriers and flipped over. Thankfully, he is okay. But what had happened was Gasly was sandwiched in between Zhao and Russell, and he tagged the inside of Russell, who then clipped Zhao, flipping him over. And then Albon, Vettel, and Ocon were behind them in a quote-unquote separate accident, a part of the bigger incident picture, which sent Albon into the right side barriers as he was attempting to slow down to avoid what happened in front of them. So quite frightening to not be able to see the replays right away because we didn't know what had happened. Megan, this was a super scary start. They were both, Zhao and Albon, were taken to the medical center and checked out. Albon did spend some time in the hospital, but both seemed to be a little bit okay, or not a little bit, but okay and recovering. So yeah, any thoughts, anything that I missed on that initial accident, anything you want to throw in there?
Watching it, yeah, there's a couple of things I'm going to add. Watching it in real time was terrifying because I saw that there was a car upside down. Like, I yelled at the intern. I was like, there's a car sliding upside down. He didn't believe me. I obviously was right. That's a dig. But it was terrifying. I'm also really, really, really impressed that the TV coverage chose not to show any of the replays until we knew that he was okay. I thought that was a fabulous choice. And if we didn't know he was okay and we had watched it, because if you watch it now, you're watching it and you're shocked and awed, but you know that he's okay at the end. But I think if I had seen that and not known he was okay, I would have been freaking out. I can't imagine to be one of the people in the stands that was right there. I think, thank God for the debris catch fence. I think that was incredible. I do think that they're going to have to make some changes because Zhao's car, George Russell spoke out about it after the race, and Zhao's car was stuck between the Tech Pro barrier and the metal fence. And that shouldn't happen. So I definitely think there will be changes made to that structure or that kind of design there. But I mean, every Formula One incident, we know this from Roman Grosjean, has led to the FIA investigating, studying, and trying to make changes. The halo saved his life.
If you haven't looked at the photos or if you haven't watched, highly suggest taking a look because it's a miracle that he's all right and not scraped up or concussed. Or
I will give a trigger warning if you're afraid of accidents or massive incidents like this. This is not the video for you because I don't think I've seen an accident like that.
Yeah,
not
I've never
real time.
I've never seen an F1 car flipped upside down and it left an indentation in the track. I don't know if you saw that picture, Megan, but it messed up the concrete or the asphalt, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, definitely frightening, super scary. And it's crazy because just a couple weeks ago when we were in Canada, I felt like we were kind of bitching about being looking at the race between two fences. And now after seeing this, you're exactly right. How frightening would it have been to be in the stands and see that happen? So just so blessed that everyone is okay.
Very shocking that he was okay after that. I did not think he would be okay. It's a miracle, and it's great that both him and Alex are okay. I will say, because we're talking about this incident, we've taken a pause. What did you think about all of the George Russell stuff?
Yeah,
that was happening. So, long story. You want me to tease it in, and you can answer? Yeah. So essentially, at the end of the day, George Russell doesn't restart the race. It's because his car was on the flatbed truck. Once it goes on the flatbread, it's not a pizza. This is a flatbed truck. Then it's essentially over. Per Sam Collins, the rules state that if George Russell had been able to get back into that car and drive it in the pit lane, he would have been able to, fix it and restart it. George Russell, after the race, explains that he ran over to Zhao to check that Zhao was okay, which I think is a phenomenal thing to do. I mean, he literally jumped out of the car and started running, and then a marshal was chasing him. Apparently, this isn't the first time that has happened. Callum Elliott said that, when he was in a crash in karting, George stopped, jumped out, and flipped the car off of him. So he goes to help Zhao, runs back to his car, tries to get into it, but the car was fine. It just wouldn't start. So George Russell ran back to the pits to ask, and apparently told that marshal not to let him put it on the flatbed, knowing that if they put it on the flatbed, it's over. He got back from the pits running around, because clearly he's also a triathlete, It was already on the truck bed, and I guess the FAA wouldn't take it off of the flatbed for him to attempt to drive it to the pits, because there was nothing wrong that the data could suggest other than a puncture. So I really would have liked to see George in, but do you think the FIA should change this rule? Should George Russell have been able to start?
Tricky situation, since I don't know if George really asked the marshal to say, don't put the car on the bed. Who knows? But all in all, I would say he had a left rear puncture, and not sure he would have been able to make it back to the pits even if the car was able to be turned back on and driven back. I don't know if it was feasible for him to do that. I don't know. Maybe it would have been. We don't know. Do I think that the car should have remained off of the flatbed? Yes.
She's going to try to...
I tried not to say bread. Flatbed. Weird. I've never seen this before. But from the conversation he was having with the FIA, it seemed heated for a George Russell conversation. Yeah, I don't know. This podcast is brought to you by Racing Thread, Formula One clothing for any occasion.
Their clothing features subtle, evocative, embroidered designs for your favorite F1 moments.
From Ricardo's Monza shoey to Sebastian's Australian scooter ride.
From Lewis's Brazilian comeback to Carlando's round of golf.
Whether you're out to dinner with friends, watching the race at home, or cheering in the grandstands.
Gone are the embarrassing sponsor logos. Instead, Racing Thread is F1 clothing you are comfortable wearing anywhere.
Right now, Dirty Driving listeners can get 15% off Racing Thread's entire range of t-shirts, sweatshirts, and polos using the code Dirty Driving.
That's Dirty Driving, all capitals, no spaces, for 15% off their entire clothing range.
Head over to racingthread.com to shop F1 racewear for anywhere. I haven't really had a lot of time to think about this because was so many other things that we have yet to get to that have happened. He could have, I don't know. I don't think he would have been able to get back to the pits. I think that's my final thought on it.
I think should have been allowed to try.
Yeah.
Come
Oh, yeah.
on, give it the old college try. I think that's selfish, though. I don't really know if I care about, the FIA rules. If I just was like, let's let him restart, give the fans what they want. But then again, that's pandering to the fans. I don't like that either. I don't know. I think it was pretty shitty that they put the car on the truck without him coming back. If he really did tell the marshal, like, hey, man, I'm going to go ask my team. I'll be right back.
Yeah, then that's on the marshal, and I hope the marshal has been spoken to, I guess.
Do they even get in trouble? I don't know.
I don't know. They're volunteers, so yeah.
Meh.
Meh. All right, so once we knew both of the drivers were okay and the barrier was fixed, we got back to racing without Albon, Zhao, and Russell. We had another standing start with the original qualifying result grid layout. The reason for this is because not all of the cars had passed the second safety car line before the session was stopped. So the last confirmed order that could be used was the starting order, meaning that Sainz got a second chance to best Max in the start. Megan, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think it was because that they hadn't finished. The first car hadn't exited the first section before the red flag was waved.
Yeah, which I believe is, I don't know.
That might also be the second safety car line. I don't know which comes first, and I don't know which rule is actually invoked there. But
yeah, from the articles that I read, it was it's that second safety car line, which I also heard the way of how someone said it as they didn't even finish the first lap, which I think if they had all crossed that second safety car line, they could have taken that order. But since they hadn't, that's why they went back to the original order. All right, so meaning that Sainz got a second chance to best Max in the start of the race, and that is just what we saw. We had Sainz keeping the position around the outside. Then we had Sergio Perez getting up in the mix and the battle. We had both the Red Bulls and both the Ferraris going into the corner together, and Leclerc and Verstappen battling for second. They touched, I believe, twice. There was a lot of bumping. And then we had severe damage with Sergio's front wing, which caused him to pit and tumble down the order to last in the race. And then kind of also right off at the beginning, the crowd went absolutely wild when Hamilton took fourth from Lando. Great to see two hometown heroes, hometown kids battling it out. So great restart to the race. A little later on, Verstappen, very shortly after, actually, it was maybe 7 laps later, Verstappen was able to get ahead of Sainz in the hangar straight after Sainz went wide with an oversteer. That lead didn't last for long, though. 2 laps later, Verstappen slowed thanks to a tire puncture from running over some carbon fiber debris. He pit and then came back out in 6th. We went on to find out that Max suffered extreme floor damage with a fairly large piece of AlphaTauri, and this is my second show and tell if you're watching on YouTube. When I read that it was a piece and then I saw this picture of the piece, it's huge. That was what was stuck underneath.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
No wonder his race was compromised.
Yeah. No wonder. It's a very large piece of AlphaTauri that is clearly AlphaTauri. Which the AlphaTauris then had this run in and kind of this graceful matching spin with each other. Tsunoda received a 5-second penalty for causing the collision, and Gasly actually went on to DNF after getting a black and orange flag waved for damage.
It was kind of like synchronized swimming. Like
yes.
The two of them were like a little too in sync for that little pirouette.
Yes. It was kind of cute if it hadn't have cost Gasly his race and screwed me even further on fantasy, but whatever. We also lost Valtteri due to loss of gear shift abilities, and Ocon a little later caused a yellow flag around lap 39 he slowed down on the track, and it was recorded as a fuel pump issue, so he also DNF'd and caused a quick safety flag, which allowed a lot of people to pit, switched up some strategy. Yellow flag, safety car is always gonna, change the layout of the race. So,
look, unfortunate for Ocon, but he took one for all of F1. All fans. He took one for the communal F1 team because that spiced everything up.
Everything up. And the race continued with great highlights thanks to this series of lap-long battle between Hamilton, Perez, Leclerc, and Sainz, making it, I think, the best race of the year thus far. Megan, correct me if I'm wrong in that statement.
No, I loved it. Literally, I loved it. I was walking around the French Quarter with the phone in front of my face, like screaming at how excited. Because when you haven't gotten into it yet, so I'll just wait. I'm not going to jump in.
I'll jump in. I'll finish up. In lap 25, earlier on, Lewis actually had a moment where he got to lead the race after both of the Ferraris pit. Sainz was struggling with his tires. He was faster than Leclerc, but slower than Hamilton, which led to the little rift between Leclerc and Sainz, which it happens between teammates with someone going faster and someone going slower and someone trying to get their first win and someone trying to win this championship. So that's that. With 10 laps left, the battle actually legit began and truly began. Perez got around Hamilton for third place in turn 5, while Leclerc went wide in turn 6 with Sainz retaking the lead. The overtake of the race was thanks to Hamilton. Perez made this move in the last corner, which forced Leclerc wide, and Lewis made this juttingly quick move down the inside and passed both of them at the same time. And my neighbors heard me scream when that happened. So
I mean, all of the French Quarter heard me scream.
It was jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and the crowd went berserk. I've never heard a Formula One crowd that loud before. I don't know, but it didn't last long, because then Perez and Leclerc pulled back ahead, and then Alonso was on Hamilton for fourth. It was 5 cars battling within 20 meters of each other, and it was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And so that brings me to my question before I wrap up the race, but is this the racing we've been waiting for, Megan?
Yes, this is it. And this is what I've been saying. Look, everyone's been like, Mercedes is out. And they're all mad because Lewis Hamilton isn't, winning. Okay, look, I am mad that Lewis Hamilton isn't winning, but I was most excited about Mercedes getting back in the fight because of what we saw this weekend. I don't want 2 teams battling out at the front. I want 3 teams. I loved the fact that for multiple laps, we were not sure what the order of the podium was going to be. We knew it was going to be a mix of Ferraris and Red Bulls and Mercedes. Well, we only knew one Red Bull was in there. But still, was it going to be, was Charles going to be able to make it happen? Was Carlos Sainz going to crush under the pressure? Was it going to be Checo? Was it going to be Lewis? This is what I loved about it, is that 10 laps before the end of the race, I was not sure what the podium was going to look like. And that is the type of racing I want to see. That Lewis Hamilton overtake was beautiful. The fact that Alonso was in there and he was just he whipped up to the party hey, bitches, I'm here. Can I get on the podium too? Which, truthfully, if that racing hadn't been as respectful as it was, insert maybe a snide comment here, but I'm not going to go there. That could have been an Alonso podium.
Easily.
Just that's what we want. I want the jeopardy, not so much the risk of a crash. That's not what I'm interested, but I want there to be jeopardy, that there is pressure applied to who's on the podium, regardless of who it is, and that podium might change at the last minute. I know we're not going to get that out of every race, but I feel like this is the step in the right direction.
And you're exactly right in the idea of, I want battles to go until the last lap. I don't want to jump ahead too far, but we were battling to the end with 5 laps left. Hamilton and Leclerc went into cops. I was nervous. They were side by side. I was like, what's happening? Hamilton had DRS into the hangar straight and retook the podium position of third from Leclerc. It was incredible racing. Megan, you're exactly right again. Like, if it had not been brave and as precise of car control as was demonstrated, it could have been a completely different turn of events. But yeah, Hamilton went on to finish the race in third, taking his second third place podium in a row, taking his 13th podium at Silverstone. Then we had Perez crossing the line in second after recovering from, at one point, the last place of the race. I think he drove a daring race, but I think Sergio Perez, I mean, I've got money on him winning the championship. I'm not ruling him out. I think we've seen a huge growth in just the first 10 races of this season thus far. So, yeah. Checo
He's a phenomenal driver.
Phenomenal. And going into the race, Verstappen led Checo by 46 points in the championship. That's now been cut down to 34 points, with Max taking his 7th place finish. He had battles. This is what the last battle was: Mick Schumacher and Max Verstappen going at it. Mick pulled back a little, and I think I'm glad he pulled back because we might not have seen a finish with him in the points had he maybe not. But he finished just behind Max in 8th place, and Mick took his first ever points in Formula One, which not only did we have a Carlos Sainz win, but the Formula One gods also gave me a Mick Schumacher points win or points finish. So
guess what? Guess what this means, Katie? We only have Nicholas Latifi needs to be in the points, which I thought was going to happen this week. I didn't actually think that was going to happen, I'll be honest. But I had some slight hopes of nuggets. But, I mean, now I'm down to one driver needs to be in the points. And at this point, I think it is, it could happen.
I'm not ruling it out for you.
First off, I didn't rule it out for myself. I'm the one who said stupid statement. But second off, I didn't think that we were going to be down to only one driver needing points at round 10.
This fast. Yeah, this fast.
Like, this wasn't I feel like my statement is proved true by the fact that it's happened this quickly, that we're at 19 out of 20.
Yeah, great prediction. I'm going to give that one all to you. It was a great prediction.
I should have put like $1,000 on all 20 drivers being in the points for the year.
Yeah.
I'd be rich as shit.
The bets we could have placed, it's always those.
I don't even think you can bet on that. Like, I don't think that's either. Bettable.
It's not a stake, so no.
It should.
Maybe we can write
not for any other year other than this year.
Only this year. And then finally, we had our first time Grand Prix winner, Carlos Sainz, take first place after 150 Grand Prix starts. Won the race, came in on top. I loved watching him celebrate. There's this amazing photo of him with the champagne spray, and he just looks incredibly happy. So the Red Bulls actually lead Ferrari still in the championship. It has been dropped from a 76-point lead to a 63-point lead. So getting there, maybe, getting there. And Megan, my last kind of question that I had for you is, with just 3 races left before the summer break, do you have any predictions you'd like to make for the next few weekends?
Well, I fully 100% believe that next weekend's going to be a Red Bull weekend. Verstappen won there last year. He won there in 2019 and 2018. Yes, Bottas won in 2020. But I think I think Christian Horner has sacrificed maybe himself to the gods so that they have a good weekend next weekend, whether it's Checo or Max. I mean, it's going to be Max. If his car is fine, Max is winning. Sorry. They would invert the cars 15 times if they needed to at the Red Bull Ring for Max Verstappen to win. Beyond that, I'm interested to see how France goes. I have no predictions about France, but in my head, that's going to be good for Mercedes. I don't know why. I just feel like France is going to be it. I have some thoughts. I'm not going to get into them yet. I know that Mick Schumacher said that they are bringing upgrades in Hungary. So there we'll see Haas upgrades. I'm interested to see how those upgrades go, because that will be their first upgrades of the year. So it's freaking impressive that they had a double points finish and they are literally driving the car that they drove in February.
Insane. Like, proud of them.
First off, part of me is like, damn, Gunther, you ain't rocking a ship. I think you might have like a yacht. He has one of those yachts that a Russian mobster had seized in Italy. That's Gunther's boat right now. It's pretty impressive. If anything, that is the most impressive thing that I saw this weekend. So no, I do think that next one's going to be a Red Bull weekend, but France, I don't think so. And Hungary, I don't think so either. I think this whole Mercedes swing, I don't know if that means that Mercedes is going to win anything, but I think having them in the mix is going to now require Red Bull to really not only be offensive, but be much more on the defense, because Ferrari has not been reliable, but Mercedes has. So they've been on the defense of Ferrari, but haven't had to like fully be concerned. And now I think with the mix of a reliable performing car, they're going to be like, meh. What about you? What are your predictions?
I would agree with you that next week is going to be a Red Bull week. I think France should be interesting. I am often not quite as intrigued by that race, but I feel like we're at an interesting point of the season with the mix-up of this week. I think there's going to be maybe a drama-filled Red Bull weekend next weekend, which then will lead to maybe a more entertaining French Grand Prix, potentially. And then potentially. And then Hungary, last race before summer, I think is going to be insight into what the rest of the season is going to look like.
Well, that's going to be the last-ditch effort of teams to grab points before the break. And
yes,
I think that's going to be a weekend of desperation for teams like McLaren, which makes me nervous. But nonetheless, we move on.
I did not place any bets this weekend. I was in the dream state with Carlos Sainz on pole, and could I go back and rewind time, I would be putting money on Carlos Sainz. I would. I cannot do that. I do not have a time machine, nor do I play one on TV.
She does not play a time machine. Fun fact, everyone. Katie is not a robot, and nor does she play one.
Thank you, Megan.
Insight into the Hornsby Sisters podcast.
We are not robots.
Nor are we lizard people. That's my new statement in life. Okay, so I mean, I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah,
look, we're getting into the fantasy stuff. Katie is very pissed off at me.
It is whatever. So just talk about it and let's move on.
I think we have come to the sprint race of the Brazil 2021 comeback. I think I'm really proud of this. So I've continued to move up the ladder. This weekend, I've passed the Formula Interested American friends. Connor Hayes, yep, passed you, buddy. I'm in third place in the league. This matters a lot to me. Unfortunately, Katie suffered a quintuple. I think that is the correct word for 5 DNFs on her team. So it was a rough weekend for her.
And I didn't know that happened. I remember setting my team up right before qualies, right before lockdown. And I kid you not, Megan sent me a screenshot of my team, and I thought it was her team for 20 seconds. And then I clicked, and it was my team. And I was like, oh, that's horrible.
We're putting it on the story tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm putting it on the story tomorrow for the episode drop, for not to make fun of Katie, but to drum up someone to go listen to us discussing about it.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to do it for the episode.
Yeah, it was ugly. I'm glad I didn't bet.
I'm going to go out there. We'll move past Katie's blunder. But it's not really even her fault. She had no idea this was going to happen. My best move was for sure this week picking up Red Bull as the constructor. While Red Bull didn't have a great weekend, I did also bring on Checo to my team. That was 2 races. No, this was just for this race. So it wasn't a great weekend for the constructor because of the damage Max took, but it was definitely nice to have a constructor that wasn't a bottom 4 constructor, which I had previously had because of, value, and you have to, spread out the wealth a little bit. I tried a different stance by taking an expensive constructor and a cheaper 2 drivers. So it worked out. I think I'm going to continue doing that. Unfortunately, Zhao was my talent driver, but
Oh, bummer.
the weekend before he had brought me all the points. The real question, Katie, is what is your plan for this weekend?
I clearly need to do some reevaluating on my team and maybe make a couple of phone calls. Just kidding. I don't have any of the drivers' phone numbers. I need to reevaluate. I need to take a look because now I'm the one who has to make a Brazilian comeback. And you know what? At the end of the season, if it means I'm getting another tattoo, then sorry, Mom and Dad. Another one for the books.
She's gonna make a Checo recovery. She's gonna make a Silverstone 2022 while I'm making my Brazil 2021. We'll see whose comeback is better. Okay, so it is time. This is what I've been waiting for all episode. I'm very excited about this, Katie. It's time for our winners and losers. And let me tell you, I've never been more excited about this winner. After what feels like an entire season of picking them as my loser, I get to say my winner is Mick fucking Schumacher. And I'm cussing there because he cussed on the radio and then he apologized for swearing, but I'm not apologizing in this moment. Oh, hell nah. I have been waiting to celebrate this. Like Seb has been waiting to celebrate this moment.
Don't make me misty.
Literally the whole thing made me misty. We're going to get into it in a second, Katie. But seriously, Mick Schumacher, first points. I thought the man was cursed. I thought he was cursed. He's not cursed. It happened. Sun is shining, the take is clean. Mick Schumacher was in the points. Not only was it him in the points, but it was a double points finish for Haas. K-Mag was P10. And it just brought me such joy that it was like Schumacher and then Seb. Like, that was just great. In the moment, that was the photo that I saw that really like just made me like gush and cry happy tears was when Seb and Mick had gotten out of the cars and he just like hugged him, and I was just like, oh. And it was, it was also kind of cool because like Seb was literally watching Mick battle Max, and after the race we come to find out that Sebastian Vettel was in his car yelling like, go get him, Mick, like go Mick, go grab him. All of that just warms my like fuzzy heart, my ice cold heart. It was fuzzy for a moment there, but it just was so awesome to see. It was, how could you? I can't even. I don't even have words for it. I feel like this is my child that has just done something great. It literally is someone who I don't even know. But it was such an impressive drive. It was well deserved. We knew it was a matter of time. K-Mag even knew it was a matter of time. Gunther's on cloud 9. He just got a $400 million super yacht. He's moved up from the IKEA.
Oh, great winner. Good choice, Megan. My winner was Mr. Sergio Perez, Mr. Checo. Excellent race. I talked about him a little earlier, but I'm just so happy that he is out and about this year and finishing on podiums and showing us what I know that he can do. He had great pace on the softs towards the end of the race and came out on top of the battle between him, Hamilton, and Leclerc, which we're talking about Sergio Perez. Like, no one gives that man enough credit. His dad was there to celebrate, and I'm simply not over Papa Perez giving Father Hamilton a kiss on the cheek while Tom Cruise stood next to them and watched.
All I'm going to say, and I've been waiting to say this, Jos Verstappen would never let that happen.
Would never. That would be like an international incident.
He would never allow it to happen. And Father Hamilton was like, yeah, buddy, we're here together.
It was good. Probably a highlight. So yeah, second in the championship, not counting him out, and I've still got my money on him. So hopefully, it would just be insane for last race of the season, Sergio and Max to be battling, and Sergio defying Red Bull team orders and taking the championship away from Max. I dream about that. So
my brain does not compute these statements.
Yeah.
Christian Horner. I mean, Christian.
I think,
what would Christian do?
I think
what would
Christian,
Joss do?
I think Christian would run out on track, like in the middle of the race.
Which we did not discuss the protesting.
No, we did not.
We will not. I don't really feel the need to.
Sorry.
I will. I mean, what would Joss do? I think Joss would throw down with Papa Perez. He'd be like, next thing you know, we'd have like a cage match in the pit lane between Jos Verstappen and Papa Perez.
It would be bad. It would be bad.
Gosh, can this please happen just only for the memes?
Only for the memes.
Okay, so then I feel like this is a perfect time for me to discuss my loser, which is obviously Max Verstappen. Not obviously, you could have been Charles Leclerc, but it could have been a lot of people. But obviously, in my brain, everyone should know I'm going to pick Max Verstappen here. Look, he got ahead at the first race start. It was unfortunate that in the restart they had to go back to the original qualifying order, and that he would be behind Sainz going into the second turn. Well, they battled it out for a while, but he was behind going into the second turn, I think. Or it was the first turn. Or it was the third turn. Don't remember that part. It was really unfortunate that he hit a piece of debris. Not even a piece, but like a chunk. A small nugget of one of the AlphaTauri cars that damages floor and cost him the race. But really, what's unfortunate for Max, like long term, is that Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz were all able to gain a lot of ground on him in the Drivers' Championship. And yes, it was good that he was even in the points. He ended P7 and he got 3, 4,
5. He got some points.
He got points. 5. Don't even know the points there. Is there even a point for that position? to ask a Lewis Hamilton question. No, I think Christian Horner said it right when he said that, like, look, at the end of the day, he was still in the points. Those points are valuable considering the DNFs that they've suffered this year and the fact that, I don't fully think that the reliability is there for the Red Bull. We just saw Checo go out in Canada. Those points could be valuable at the end of the year. But it definitely was disheartening.
My loser, which I feel like I have to apologize for making him my loser because he did, like, a wonderful act of making sure that Zhao was okay. So it's not necessarily that, like, he himself was a loser this weekend, but the scenario that he was in makes him a loser for the weekend, if you're picking up on what I'm putting down. So it's George Russell. Lost out on participating in his home race with the DNF in lap 1. Like I said, and we've talked about it before, like, great action of making sure that Zhao was okay. Sucks that the flat bed was a thing. But I think the hardest heartbreak was that he didn't finish. Obviously, he DNF, so he didn't finish in the top 5 to make it 10 races in a row. So we can, keep saying that he has finished in the top 5 for every race that he has finished. But Mr. Consistency is no longer Mr. 100% no DNF consistency.
He's just a different kind of Mr. Consistent. I'd also like to mention that my dishonorable loser, it's my new thing. I've decided it's going to be a thing. Is going to be the person who just unfortunately lost due to their stupidity or their team's stupidity was Charles Leclerc and Ferrari for the lack of strategy. They didn't pit him during that safety car. Granted, I don't know if they would have been able to. I'd have to go back and look at the timing, but I'm not sure they would have been able to get him in after, because he might have already passed. But I do think that was very unfortunate for him not to be on newer tires at the end. And I definitely think that cost him at the end of the race.
The honorable mention for this week is not only Zhao and Albon that they are okay and recovering, but the halo, because this is yet another example of one of the could be best ever created safety invention that we have now lived to see another driver walk away alive from an incredibly scary accident where the halo saved their life. So that's our honorable mention this week. No fights on that one. Thanks. All right, for our hidden gem, not only was it Sebastian Vettel's birthday, who had a stellar drive climbing 9 places from 18th to score some points, but he was finally able to drive Nigel Mansell's 1992 Williams FW14B, which Vettel purchased, I believe it was 2 years ago at the Goodwins racing event. It was in auction. In Nigel's hands and Mansell's hands, the car was dominant in the 1992 season, and the Englishman won 9 Grand Prix across the year on his way to win the World Championship, including the British Grand Prix, where he qualified on pole, a staggering 1.919 seconds ahead of his teammate to take pole position. So to mark the 30th anniversary of this triumphant Grand Prix that happened, Vettel decided to bring the car to Silverstone with him for a track demonstration run on Sunday morning before the race. Nigel Mansell was actually there to watch and celebrate as well. But the coolest part about the whole thing, other than maybe the sound of the V10 engine, was Seb used a carbon neutral fuel for the demonstration. And we all know the idea of Sebastian Vettel standing up for all of the causes that he believes in, and he wanted to make a statement of the idea that we can keep the history of Formula One alive, but do it in a responsible way. So that was the reason why he wanted to use a carbon neutral fuel. I thought it was interesting. He did make a comment that it only took one shakedown with the fuel. It took them a while to find the fuel, but once they did, it only took one shakedown to get it ready and get it working with the carbon neutral fuel. So no issues with that. So just kind of showing that the history and heritage and culture of motorsport can continue, but we can do it in a responsible way.
I love it. I think it's great. First off, there's only a few people who could show up and be like, look, I bought this car. I'm going to do a private track day, but I'm going to do it ahead of the Grand Prix, of the day, not Thursday. I'm doing it on Sunday. And there's very few people who could do that. Thought it was awesome. I normally don't add in other honorable mentions, but I felt like it was important that I had to include these two. First off, Arthur Leclerc won his first F3 race of the 2022 season at Silverstone with his brother Charles Leclerc there. And then another one that I didn't know was happening until after it was the middle of the race. Someone mentioned it actually to me. Logan. I'm going to repeat that again. Logan Sargent won his first F1 race after he converted his maiden pole to victory at the Silverstone feature race. He became the first American to do so in the championship's history. So I thought that was definitely some great honorable mentions, not necessarily from the F1 race, but from the F2 and F3 race, which I just thought were kind of some good nuggets to include.
Up next is another race week, and this time we're headed to Austria for the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring, the second of their home races, of Red Bull's home races, because Silverstone kind of counts as one. It's a 71-lap race that rejoined the calendar in 2014, and last year we saw a Verstappen victory. He also won in the previous years of 2019 and 2018, so the question is, and Megan and I have kind of already predicted it, but does he come back in true Max Verstappen style and take another win for Red Bull at home? If he doesn't, he may need to hide from Christian and his dad.
And his dad and Helmut.
And the whole party that we, yeah.
He should just, if you just keep the car, just keep driving.
just drive into the Austrian countryside.
And what's really exciting about this upcoming weekend is that it is a sprint race weekend. So everyone makes some extra time on Saturday for all of the action. And this track is wicked cool with another setup challenge for teams as they try to balance the front half that is 3 straights and a 3 uphill right hand turns with a back half that's downhill with some quick corners. So it's a mix. You may need a refresher on sprint weekends, so check out our Formation Lap episode on sprint race weekends. We talk about how they're set up, how the points work, all of that. I'm excited for another sprint. It normally always makes for a pretty good weekend. So tune in next week for our sprint race weekend recap of Austria.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us at Dirty Driving Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Until next time, stay dirty.